Live again.
Welcome back.
We'll see if this works. I got to figure something else out. Either upgrade this fucking computer, or we need to go do. I just need to use my laptop. I don't know. Very frustrating, but that's okay. We'll just let people roll on in here before we mansplain abortion to everybody. Finally, I've got it to work. All right, looks good. I think we're good. Let me disable the camera. I'm gonna bring you back up. What's up, Anthony?
What's up, man?
You ready? You ready to take another run at this?
Yeah.
That's how we roll. We're not gonna let it keep us down.
Nah.
We don't do that.
No.
We do live shows and we do them right. We never ever mess up. We never ever have things go wrong. It's unacceptable. It's not what we do.
Oh,
We got the virtual camera running. We got you back up. I see you got a little pink flamingo behind you.
It's my daughter's. It's a neon pink flamingo. So,
That's fantastic.
yeah.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Unframe of Mind show, where we have uncomfortable conversations without a condom. I'm your host, Daniel Wagner.
And for the second time, Anthony Trey.
All right. And yes, so we're going to just jump right back on in there. We had a Supreme Court decision come down. Or no, we didn't have the Supreme Court decision. We
No.
had leaked paperwork, basically, of a upcoming potential Supreme Court decision. And basically just says everything's getting kicked back to the states. So here we are trying to figure out why in the hell everybody's lost their damn ever-loving minds.
Because COVID's over with. We needed something
I know.
to divide people with, you
I know.
know? I
Seems
mean,
like-
let's go back to abortion. That always seems to
Yeah, it
rile
seems
people up.
Seems like we forgot about Ukraine and Russia. What? Who? Ukraine and Russia? Who? What was going on with it? I can't even remember the details anymore. Nah, let's talk about abortion now. That seems like a hot topic. Seems like maybe Joe Biden's ratings were getting so low that they're like, listen, we need something to jumpstart this guy. Like he's like basically the Walking Dead here. We got to get something going on. So that's probably what ended up happening.
I don't know, man. I just what I found interesting when I first heard about this, I said, okay, well, this is just a draft. This is not even anything that's finalized. But of course, first of all, to leak a document like this, I believe it's against the law. So I don't know if there's some. I have to look into it. I really haven't had much time. I'm currently on day shift right now, but um, I'm almost willing to believe to suggest that leaking a document like this, there could be some serious consequences for it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. They're saying it's unprecedented, that this is not something that has ever been done before.
right.
And I guess this stuff's taken very seriously when they're talking about this stuff. So I don't know exactly what happened or who leaked it or why, but it seems awful convenient that it would happen right about now when there really wasn't anything going on. We've got a number of elections going on. You know, I don't know. It just seems like people aren't happy unless they're divided. You know, we got to have something to bicker about.
Well, and what I don't understand is it's not like this draft was suggesting that they're just going to overturn Roe v. versus Wade. This was basically kicking it back to the states to let each state make their own decision on whether to overturn Roe v. Wade. So,
Right.
with that being said, I don't like what is all the hoopla about? I mean, really, what is everybody so terrified
Yeah,
for?
I don't know. I think it's great, honestly, because it allows people, because this is one of those topics that you're never going to be able to come up. Like, how do you compromise either killing a baby or not killing a baby, right? I mean, how do you compromise with that? I mean, I don't. There's no way that you're going to have two sides figure out some kind of amicable solution. So probably the best solution is, well, let's kick it back to the states and let states decide, and then people can move to wherever they feel
Yeah.
comfortable. You know, if you got one state that's like, hell no, never, 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 that's my thing. Okay, great. We'll move there. If it's like, okay, well, yeah, you can abort this thing all the way up into, 39 and a half weeks, and if that's your thing, that's where you go. You go over there, go move to
You
that.
do have a choice to move.
Right. Again,
You
we're all
know?
pro-choice in the end. We're all pro-choice in the end. We have choices.
Yeah.
And what drives me nuts, man, is like you got so many people that are just hot-headed as hell, like yelling at each other in all
Yeah.
caps all the time. And it's like, how do you have a conversation with somebody when you immediately jump to the most emotional outburst you possibly can because the topic's even being brought up? Like it seems like a lot of people aren't even really paying attention to what is actually happening, and they're just too busy defending their stance on abortion and having that debate.
I think what it is the as soon as people, I mean, we already live in a triggered field society as it is right now. So I think what it is once you hear the word abortion, it automatically triggers people to have that defense, that defense mechanism to start spewing bullshit, in my opinion, whether if you're pro-choice or pro-life. But what I found interesting is that I got on TikTok and I was actually scrolling through some videos, and what I found interesting is that a guy, or let's see, let me get this straight because it's confusing as it is to begin with. But if you're a woman, no, if you're a man with pronouns him or he, with green hair, which this is what I did watch, and you're very progressive, you can actually have a position on abortion. You can say whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. But a straight guy like myself that doesn't use pronouns, isn't part of the LBG, LMNOP community, I'm being told that I have to sit down and shut up, that I do not have a voice in this matter. That's what I'm told. If that gives you any idea how screwed up our society is that you have a man who uses pronouns, he or him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a part of the LBG and LMNOP community, and all of a sudden he's got more of a voice than I do because he's a part of that community. I'm trying to understand the logic and the thinking behind.
Not gonna you can't understand logic behind pure unadulterated emotion. You just can't.
Because more than likely that individual probably won't have kids. If I mean, I watched this video, I seriously doubt that they will. But if they did, they would probably more likely, convince whatever him, her, whatever to have an abortion. Dude, it's gotten to be so fucking confusing. I can't keep up with this other side. They've I mean, I'm in one lane. I'm in the straight white male lane. And over here, you got these assholes weaving in and out of lanes because they can't figure out who they are from one day to the next. And they're telling us, that we can't have an opinion on abortions, and it's just what I don't like about this, that when women come at me and they tell me to shut up and sit down, there is an actual growing population of men where they want to have children, okay, and but their wife might decide, hey, I may want to have an abortion, so tough shit. But the husband, the boyfriend, doesn't want her to abort the child. Then what do you do? What do you do? What do you do in that situation? You mean to tell me that I'm married to a woman who wants to have an abortion, but I want to keep the child?
Yeah.
What do you do? You mean to tell me that I don't have a voice in that situation? That
No,
I don't have a
it's
and now
her
how
body,
did
her choice, right? I mean, it's all her body. It's her choice. She gets the final say.
you gave up that right the moment that you lay down in that bed with me and spread your legs? And I'm sorry if that offends people, but it's the honest to God's truth. You consented to that act knowing full well that there's a possibility that your ass could have got pregnant. You now have that
Now,
responsibility.
now, see, we could go for hours probably on the abortion topic itself, on the morality behind it, on whether or not you should or shouldn't, or when might it be
But
acceptable.
it all boils
Really
down to
go
that
into
when you mentioned earlier about the people getting on their phones and all caps, that's usually the first thing you get from these folks.
yeah,
And
yeah.
whether it's men or whether
Men
it's
should
women is
not be making laws about women's bodies.
right, right.
Men should not be making laws about women's bodies.
But the point to this that I'm trying to make is that we're starting to see a growing number of men that are finally speaking up and saying, "Hey, I want to keep this child of mine.
Yeah.
You don't have that right to do what you think is necessary because you want to be selfish." No, that shit ain't gonna fly anymore. And I tell you what, a lot of people are gonna start pushing back. The thing that irritates me the most is that when it comes to this whole situation, people are going to extremes about it falling back to the state. Why is that? And I can tell you why. Because a lot of these states that are Republican are going to vote for abortion to be illegal. Then guess what?
Right.
Places like Planned Parenthood go out of business. Then what do you
Now,
do?
now once it does get kicked back to the states, it's going to create a shitstorm, honestly. Um, but as I was saying in our previous recording before we had the technical difficulties, I'm
Mhm.
kind of excited for the idea that local, smaller local communities can make a decision about what's best for them.
Right.
Like I said, if you're California and you want to have a law that says I can abort a baby until they're like 5 years old out of the womb, hey, you know what? Do your thing. It's not for me at all. That's
Bye, Felicia.
morally reprehensible to me. I will
Yeah.
not be moving there. I will be recommending nobody move there. We'll be
If you
doing
can afford to live there.
yeah, we'll be doing news stories about that and talking about look at these crazy assholes are doing over there. Aren't you glad we live here in Tennessee where they don't do that? That'll be the kind of conversations we'll be having. And honestly, the areas that are against it, they'll attract a certain type of person, and the areas that are for it, they'll attract a certain type of person, and that's okay. That's okay. I mean, we're not. I mean, I'm not even trying to get into the morality behind everything. I'm just like the basic like building blocks, the basic like what's it called, logistics of how this is going to work is going to be rather interesting, because you no longer have the federal government just saying, hey, you all just do this, because there is no one size fits all solution on this topic. There's no compromise on this one.
And it's interesting because my daughter just turned 15 yesterday. And I've been keeping up with the news cycle. I knew this was going on. And I kept thinking to myself, man, I'm glad I never thought or even it crossed my mind to have my daughter aborted. I mean, I would have missed out on 15 years of so many memories. And I'm glad that I'm pro-life, but yeah, it almost seems like that it's a sin to say that. Like people are just going to strike the hammer down on you for believing that way or feeling that way.
Mhm.
I believe that there should be life. Now, if you choose to do your own thing and abort a child, look, at the end of the day, you got to answer to whatever higher being that you got to answer to. You know what I'm saying? But if it directly affects me, then that's when we have problems. But outside of that realm, do your thing. I don't give a shit what you do. You're not the one I am not the one that you got to answer to on the day that you die and you move on and and you have to explain yourself to somebody else. That's none of my concern. But
This is where it's a tough problem, though, is you have this entire issue, the fact that we're here, that this is the final product we're talking about. Like I said many times in the past, even wrote an article about it, a few
yeah,
articles about it. It's like if it gets to the point where we're having a debate about abortion, whether it's right or wrong, whether you should do it or not, we're completely missing all of the other steps that led up to that. We're completely missing the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of decisions that had to have been made to get you in a
mhm,
position where abortion is even on the table. Nobody talks about all that. They just see this
yeah.
one issue and act like it's this isolated thing, and it's not. I made a post last night, I think, talking about if you want to end the abortion debate, get rid of welfare, straight up.
Oh, yeah,
And people didn't understand the connection between the two, and that's understandable
yeah.
because it's hard to see the connection. And basically the way I broke it down was something like this: when you pay women for their bad decisions, you're going to get shitty results. If you're going to subsidize women to choose men that would otherwise, men would normally be your provider, your source of income. You would have to be careful to make sure you slept with a guy that would be there to stick around to raise the child. You'd be a lot more selective about the guys that you chose to sleep with. But when you have this giant safety net called welfare that pays uh, as much as, if not even more than most guys can bring, there's no incentive to choose correctly. So basically, it's just you get rid of welfare. Women are kind of forced to choose better men. Men will step up to the plate. Men want to be good providers. They want to be,
Yeah.
but you've got an entire like Hollywood apparatus that over the last few decades has glorified this whole bad boy style of living. Like the women are so attracted to the guy in the leather jacket. This gonna just he's so hot, but he's not the stable provider. And who cares? Because you can just get welfare. It's fine. Don't worry about it. There's no you have to get rid of the entire underlying root problem before you can solve this symptom we call needing an abortion or not. Does that make sense?
No, it does, and I've always been on board with that. I mean, logistically, it all falls back to, nobody seems to have any morals and values anymore, because we've become so dependent on government to take care of our
Yeah.
problems for us. Now we grow up in a society, or at least the generations now, um, you get an abortion, but this was a time where you didn't want to, or I'm sorry, I got pregnant, but this isn't a time for me to get pregnant because I have a career that I want to pursue, or,
Right.
I'm just too young, or, without that welfare state to provide you the services to abort this child, you're stuck with that child. You have to take care of it. Um, and that's you're right. That is the problem. And that's what a lot of folks don't seem to understand is with, when you have those services relatively available to you, you're going to use them.
Yeah.
I mean,
So look what happens. Yeah. Sorry, if you had more, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
no, I don't understand why people can't seem to take personal responsibility for the decisions that they've made. Why do they keep
because
kicking
those,
it back to the government?
because those decisions are being subsidized by the government.
Well, I understand that, but it's why can't we get it through people's heads that, if you made better choices in life, I mean, hey, I can't, I'll be the first to admit I've made a lot of shitty, choices in my life. I really have. But the one choice that I made, regardless if it was good or bad, was to keep my daughter. I mean, that's not only a responsibility, but that was a choice that I made. And others didn't feel the same as I did, but I mean, that's a conversation for another day. And it's also one of the reasons why I advocate for the fathers that want to do keep their children, and the mothers who, say basically, fuck you, I'm going to go get an abortion. Doesn't matter what you think, you're just a dude. No, there's a lot of dudes out there. They may not step up or talk, but I've seen it. I've been seeing it growing over the years that a lot of males want to provide. They want to take care of. They want to take on that responsibility. It's a slippery slope. Don't get me wrong, but in certain situations, and in a situation like mine, yes, that is what I advocate for. Now, as far as what a woman does with her body outside the realm of my circle, I don't care. I don't care what you do. Again, you don't answer to me.
Yeah.
So, I
Yep.
mean,
Exactly.
if you want to move to another state because they believe in abortion, you got to live with that, not me. I will lay my head down at night and I will sleep better for it, and not have to worry about the bullshit that you're having to deal with because you want the state and the government to to sponsor your abortion and the killing of an unborn. I'm not on board with that. So
Here's what happens. Here's what happens. The federal government kicks it back to the states, and
right,
the underlying root cause is not addressed. So you still have this symptom called "I'm a woman who needs an abortion," or "I'm a woman who would like to get an abortion," and you have this whole other faction of people that are like, "No, you shouldn't do that." So they're going to continuously be playing whack-a-mole with the abortion clinics, the illegal, the black market for it. It's going to happen.
yeah.
I mean, if there's a product, and in this case, the product is the abortion, and there's a market, they're going to get it one way or another. And
I find that it's funny that I'm sorry, go ahead.
you're going to be putting people in, or women in, very dangerous positions now, because you still have federal funds coming in to support these women with welfare. As long as that's there, you're still going to continue to have to play whack-a-mole with the abortion problem, regardless of what your individual state's laws are. And what's going to happen is you're going to have these right-wing states that are like anti-abortion 100%. And then you'll have on the news, you already know how this is going to play out. You're going to see these sob stories of women that we had to go to another state to get an abortion. We were too far away. We couldn't afford it. It should be free and paid for by the, and you're going to see all the sob stories, and you're going to have the news media is going to demonize right-wing states who, it's going to be the same thing played out over and over and over again. It's going to be a problem over and over and over again.
No, you won't see people going to other states, and I'll tell you why. They'll have to have proof of identification of what state they live in. If you don't live in that state, I guarantee you that's going to be a part of that it's going to be a part of that draft that's in there. Or not, I'm sorry, not the draft, but if they kick it back to the states, it's something that states will probably consider. That
You
you
don't
have to
think
have a.
you don't think Florida, not Florida, California would just be like, yeah, I don't care. We don't care what state you're from. If you need an abortion, come on over. We'll take care of it. You don't think they would do
Well,
that?
again, that's solely up to the state.
Yeah, yeah,
But when you have surrounding areas such as Kentucky, Tennessee, and Alabama and Georgia, I mean, that's going to be kind of difficult. Again, it just depends on the state, and that's the purpose of kicking it back to the state, is to let them choose to do what they want. Now, what's going to happen is if you don't implement that or put that in place, a lot of your services or place like Planned Parenthood or just any hospitals that provide that service are going to be so overwhelmed. They're not going to be able to take this on.
right.
It'll be interesting to see if this even plays out to where it is kicked back to the states, and second, how local governments plan on handling this whole situation. And
Yeah,
and again, this isn't a pro-choice, pro-life argument here. This is basically us saying, hey, yes, we agree with the government. It should, or not the government, but with the Supreme Court, that yes, it should be kicked back locally to the states. There's nothing wrong with this at all. Um, but you'll get one in the comment section that'll tell me to shut up and sit down, and you're mansplaining, and I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Whoever that person is that eventually comment on this, I'm going to tell you right now, you don't affect the circle in which I'm in. So, you know, your point and your little mouthing off is not going to matter
right.
to me at all.
And
So,
honestly, if the rule is that you're a man and you don't have any say so over whether or not we get abortions as women, then it should be straightforward. Like, okay, fine, then the man has the say so whether or not he wants to pay for that child or not pay for that child, right?
and I also believe, yeah, yes, but I also believe that if you are married,
Mm-hmm.
there should be some law in place. If there's not, I don't know if there is or not, but I've only been recently doing research on this, and I'm a part of a fathers group over on Facebook, and we've been kind of discussing this. But there needs to be a law put into place, if there isn't one already, where if you are married and the wife decides to have the abortion, but the father is not willing to agree to those terms, that the mother should be liable for either some kind of murder charge or some kind, something.
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know.
know how that would play out, but
That's a hell of a situation. I really have no idea how you would handle that particular situation. If it comes down to that point, I kind of feel like that relationship is far worse and farther gone than can be saved. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think there's a legal solution to this. I don't think it's a legal solution at all. I think it's too much meddling that's caused the
I
problem.
never had to go that route, but I was in a position to where it could have gone that route, because she wanted the abortion. I, however, did not.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we were together at that time. Um, that's one of the reasons why I am so hard pressed on this, because there is a population of men such as myself that have been in this situation where, the woman wanted the abortion, but as the father, I had no say in this whatsoever. That's bullshit. I don't give a shit who you are. You lay down in that bed with me, you knew the consequences, you knew the chances. Not everything is 100%. It's not. So I don't know. I mean, that's a long road to kind of travel down, and I kind of feel like it's getting off topic, but it does make me wonder if my situation, how it would have been handled if it was kicked back to the state rather than the Supreme Court. So I don't know. Of course, we'll never know, because it never, thank God, I was convincing enough for, that person not to, go the other way. And, I'm blessed to have the family that I have today. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, it's just, I think people need to take a step back, because we're seeing this time and time again with everything that seems to happen, especially with abortion. You got to relax. You got to take a step back and find out what's really going on before you decide to mouth off about a situation that, hell, most of us don't even know what's really going on. I mean, I don't know how much truth is behind this draft. Even if this draft is gone through, you have to remember this is a draft. This is something that's not finalized. You can go back and make changes to it if you want. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So, I
here's the
mean,
thing.
we don't know the end result of this draft.
Here's the thing on that. I've heard some different levels of analysis on this particular thread, which you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a draft, but I feel like it still is going to go through because for it not to go through at this point makes it really seem like they were swayed by public opinion to not let it go through, and that
Yeah.
totally discredits the entire function of the Supreme Court in this particular arena. I don't know. I feel like they're going to be hard pressed to not. I mean, they'll have to come up with a real good excuse or reason why they didn't or what they've changed. I don't know what this it's a mess. It's a mess. It's been a mess the entire time. And again, if we're coming to the point where this is the problem we're looking at, if this is the problem we're trying to solve, a lot of people have missed a lot of problems along the way that got us here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I don't know what a good way of explain another analogy for this is. I don't know that there even is an analogy, but I don't know. It's like you have this. Let me see. I don't know. I can't think of a good analogy right now. I'm sure I'll come up with something later, but that's just it's just you gotta look back at the entire path that led you here to begin with. Why, like, we should be asking questions like, why is it the government's job to tell us what we should do with our bodies anyway? Like, why should they be passing laws? Shouldn't this be something that the family should handle, the local community should handle, your churches should handle, things like that? Shouldn't it be something that you're raised and these values are instilled in you from the get-go, that maybe the government paying for people to have abortions or is a problem, that maybe
I
government
think
paying women to choose shitty men is a problem?
that,
Like, those
and I hate to say this, but
do
that
you?
needs to be a topic of conversation when you're dating somebody. You
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
find out, because see, I didn't do that. And had I known then what I know now, it's like I would have, I would have chose somebody different. But, I mean, thank God for my daughter. But what I'm saying is I think that needs to be brought up in conversation. And I hate to say that. I mean, I never thought dating would have to come down to a conversation. Oh, hey, by the way, you pro-life, or or you pro-choice.
No, I think
But
it absolutely should come down to that. I mean,
and I think what that does is it weeds out those individuals maybe from making bad decisions. I don't know, maybe not, or maybe it stops women in their tracks to possibly think, well, what exactly am I? Am I pro-life? Am I pro-choice? I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing ideas out there, but yeah, I think it needs to be discussed, especially when you're dating somebody, when you're 6 months to a year in. Y'all need to have that conversation, and you need to be on the same page. And if you're not, then go on your separate ways. Um, but there again, too, people can change over time. I mean, you start to form a relationship and a bond, and all of a sudden, the conversation is, hey, what do you think about having a child? And you have to communicate, you have to talk to each other. And I think that's one of the things that we're missing in our society right now is that nobody is communicating what they want from their partner.
yeah,
And I think if they do that, you might start to see a little bit of change. I don't think it's enough to really
instead
make that drastic change, but
yeah,
it could be enough to say, hey, maybe I need to start rethinking this idea when it comes to dating and what I should ask a woman.
basically instead of asking your date, hey, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Where would you like to go on vacation? Like, hey, where ask important questions like, hey, what kind of principles do you hold? How was your childhood? Are you pro or anti-abortion? Like, what's your stance on XYZ? And figure out kind of where you guys stand on principles, on values, on morals. Because if you guys aren't in alignment on that, it's really, I mean, yeah, y'all can have a great time in the sack, but what's the point? I mean, the entire point of dating is to have children, to get together, to make families, to
Yeah.
continue to, you know, move society into the future. I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely true, because you have some couples that are pro-life, but they just don't want to have children. And I think that's the difference is, at least those couples realize, okay, wow, we're pregnant, but we're gonna keep the baby. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
right,
So
there's exceptions, obviously, but I'm just talking about in general. That's kind of the entire point of dating is you're trying to find that partner that you can be with for the rest of your life. You're trying to shop around and find that person who's your person, you know?
well, and the other thing that I've been seeing a lot popping up in the comment section too, and this is something we've touched on before, is that the one fallback for an argument and a conversation is rape when it comes to abortion.
Yep.
That seems the go-to post or comment that every single person that is pro-choice falls back on, and when they try to make an argument for this. Well, first of all, the percentage of women who get pregnant from an actual rape is like what, less than 1%. I think it's maybe 2%. But and knowing some people in the medical field, because the trauma is so severe, their body is not capable of actually carrying the child, or receiving the sperm, egg, or whatever. Your body's in shock, so therefore it's not accepting anything. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it does, but you're talking a very small percentage of the population. And even if you're in that position, if you are raped, that is not in my neighborhood of telling what anybody should do. Because first of all, I'm not the one that was going through the experience. I'm not the one that had to live through that trauma. Now, the argument would people come back and say, well, then that makes you pro-choice. No, it doesn't.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You're talking about a crime that was committed against somebody. Now, I have been vocal about this before in the past, that if you do get pregnant, I think, and I firmly believe this, that every single person should have the ability to keep their child regardless of what happens to them. I think they have a right, because I have heard so many stories, and I have actually listened to women on YouTube that have given their stories about, I was forced to have an abortion because I was raped, when some women don't agree to that, and I think that should be okay. And that, if you get an opportunity and a chance to check out women who've been in that situation, I really think that you should. um, as for me, I think that is solely dependent on the on the individual that goes through the experience. That again, that has nothing to do with me. um, but it is interesting when that argument is presented.
Definitely need to get the government out of the entire process. It needs to be between the woman and their doctor.
Right.
Again, I'm not. If I had a choice, I'm going to keep the child. That's just where I stand. But it's not for me to say. It's not. It's not for
But
anybody.
okay, let me
Now,
ask you
now
this,
we now
Daniel. So if
hang
I'm
on.
somebody in that comment section that says, hey, well, what if that woman was raped? What's your stance on that?
If the woman was raped, again, just it needs to be between the woman and her doctor. The government shouldn't have any role in that. There should be no law saying yes, you should, or no, you should not carry that child. That's not the government's
But
role.
okay, so if it's kicked back to the state, right? So it's kicked back to the state, and you live in a state that is, abortion is illegal, and say surrounding states are. You mean to tell me that you're going to have to travel out of state to have an abortion because you were
No,
raped?
no, what I'm saying is that even the state doesn't have a say or shouldn't have a say over what should happen in this scenario. It's not the government's job, regardless of what level we're talking about. I'm just happy that we're moving toward the states because it is a move toward ultimately anarchism and the smallest possible realm of control over these people, over these things.
I just wanted to get your opinion on that whole, basically argument of people coming at you and saying, "Hey, well, what about that 1% that is raped?" Are
Well,
you basically saying,
typically my response is either, well, the government doesn't have a role in it, period. It shouldn't be their role, or it'll be something like, well, we're having a discussion about the morality of abortion, and you're talking about part of the overall equation that is statistically insignificant to the overall problem.
Mhm,
Um,
right?
yes, we can talk about it if you want, but those are the exceptions to the rule. That's not, it's like when you're hell. What's I said this before, something about like when your house is on fire, talking about the rape issue is like trying to go smash a spider you found in the corner. Like we have bigger problems to worry
But
about.
the point that I'm trying to make is, when it comes to the rape argument, it is not left up to me or you if it happens to somebody else. It's not. It's between that
No,
person,
none of it is.
right? And just like you said, it's between that person and their doctor to make the decision on what they want to do. Unfortunately,
And
and I've seen it.
spouse. Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, I've seen it too many times where you got people chirping in their ears, look, you got raped, you have an abortion. Regardless of how traumatizing the event is, that woman, that is her choice.
Yeah.
It is not mine. Um, what they choose to do from there is completely up to them. Um, but yeah, this is an interesting conversation. And again, you know, I can't emphasize this enough and reiterate this enough is that we're not making the case of whether we're pro-choice or pro-life. I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you that I'm pro-life. I have no shame in my game, but
yeah, we're both that.
um, that's not what the conversation is about. The conversation is strictly about it being kicked back to the state and why people are losing their shit. And yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to move to a state that welcomes abortion all the way up until the head pops out of the vagina, see you in California. I won't be
Yes.
there, but safe travels. And if you can afford the cost of living out there and all the taxes and people defecating on the street, and I mean, more power to you. Have fun in your travels, but I won't be on.
Right. So why don't we kick the question back to the audience here? And I'd like to ask, like, what should be the role of government in this, if at all? And if they do have a role, what should that role be? What should that even look like? Just let us know in the comment section. Did you have any kind of questions you'd like to throw on there?
No, I just I personally don't think government should be involved when it comes to anybody having anything to do with their body. We saw what happened with COVID. We saw what happened, with the shot, and trying to force that. I mean, come on, folks. I mean, government should not be involved in anything that happens to your body whatsoever.
Isn't
That
it
does not
amazing,
make me pro-life. It doesn't make me pro-choice. It just makes me pro-common sense.
isn't it
That's
super
what it
amazing,
makes me.
dude? Like how quickly the left was like suddenly for all for bodily autonomy. Isn't it amazing how quickly the left flipped over to being for bodily autonomy?
It's just it hurts my head, dude. It's like, come on, people, use some common sense here. I mean, the more that we depend on the government, the more that they're going to, take control over what we do with our lives and our bodies. I mean, for Christ's sake, you think that this is the land of the free. No, it's not. The government has more control over your life than you'll ever understand and even get. I mean, hell, social media has more control over your life and your data and your pictures and everything else.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, until you can recognize that, and the more you can separate yourself from the government and the state, the more you're going to live in a more prosperous and peaceful life. And that goes with abortion too. You have to be able to understand that the state and the government do not need to be involved in what you do. And I think getting rid of all the subsidies as far as welfare, if you get that out of the equation, I think you'll see a lot of people straighten up, but I doubt it.
Yeah. You'll see a lot less of this even being an issue, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. So one comment here, Becky says another issue with abortion is the doctor persuading a woman to abort a child that could possibly have a special need. Yeah, that's definitely another issue for sure.
Yeah, and there are doctors out there that have encouraged women to abort their children because, they have Down syndrome or, they have some kind of medical condition. And I think that's wrong. And I think that should be against the law. You should never talk, anybody into saying, hey, maybe I'll have an abortion because your child is not what they consider to be normal. Um, yeah, that's a show for another day, but yeah.
Yep, that sure is. That's a whole nother topic on playing
If you
God.
if you want to see me get riled up, abortion is a good way to do it. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm too riled up because no, I mean, it's just I'm more intrigued and I'm more fascinated by how did we get here? Like, how did we let government become so control of our lives and what we do in our daily activities? How did we get here?
Yeah, yeah, that's the
And
question. And that's the one question I haven't seen anybody asking. It's just we're all wanting to continue to focus on the root or on the problem, but nobody's focusing on the root causes.
Well, here's the thing though, the root cause can be solved. And that all starts at home, just like it does with racism and any other problem that we have that's inflicted in our society. It can be rooted out, but it has to start with you at home and your decisions and your morals and values and how you were raised. If you come from a broken home, such as myself, I had enough sense to know what is good and what is bad, right from wrong and so forth. But it's common sense is what it boils down to. Should I do this? Should I do that? I mean, obviously I've done some jail time. I've made some bad decisions in my life,
What you mean,
but you know what?
obvious?
I made those choices. I made those choices, but I learned from those decisions that I've made, and I don't want to do them again. But teach your children well and raise them to the best of your ability. And if you're a single parent, hey, do the best that you can do.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, it boils down to the way that people are raised right now. I mean,
Choose better men, ladies. Come on, choose better men.
and why is that such a bad thing? Why is it
I don't
such a
know.
bad thing? I mean,
Sounds like such a
like
misogynist thing for me to say that. Like it sounds like wow, what a dick, what a sexist asshole. No, like hey guys who are getting into drugs, choose better friends. Like that, there's nothing wrong with
what
that,
I
right?
what I hate, and I see it on social media sometimes. It's like women that talk about how, oh, I always pick the bad ones, and I'm like, if this seems to be a reoccurrence in your life,
Yeah,
maybe you ought to reevaluate your own life and figure out what you're doing wrong, and then stop projecting your blame on other people because of the quality of men that you're choosing. Obviously, there's something within your own life that is making you choose these kind of men. Wake
exactly.
up, take some ownership of, I know it's hard, trust me, I've had to do it from time to time, and I'm not perfect, but I do have flaws, and until I recognize those flaws, I can't change anything about myself. And it's hilarious, man. I just, it's so easy just to blame everybody else, to blame the government, and just say the hell with it, and there's no personal responsibility anymore.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
not.
yep. I picked another
So
deadbeat. I picked another deadbeat. He's not paying me child support. Come on, government, give me that cheddar. Give me that cheddar. I need to make 60 plus $1,000 worth
and
of government benefits every year. That'll help.
and just so we're clear, that's not every single person. You know
Oh,
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Don't insult our audience. They're smart enough to know better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, I mean, this is always a fun conversation to have with you, and to talk about abortion. And a lot of people don't want to have these conversations because of the way the left tends to go after, especially us. I can't tell you the last time we had this conversation about abortion. First, it was on the show, and then it carried over to an article that I wrote, and then it spilled over into my own personal Facebook account. Dude, I lost so many friends. I got like some of the nastiest messages from people who I've known for a long time, and family members, and Joe Schmo from that is friend of this friend of that friend over there, telling me your daughter, I feel bad for your daughter for the kind of dad that she has, and I'm like,
yeah,
motherfucker, you ain't got kids because you're pro-choice. I'm pro-life. I want kids.
no shit.
There's nothing wrong with that, and to demonize me for believing that, and other conservatives, fuck y'all. I mean, seriously, fuck you. We have a right to want to protect the sanctity of life. I don't give a shit about the woman that wants to have the abortion. I don't give a shit about the dude that laid his pipe or whatever. I'm concerned about that unborn. I don't give a shit about anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody's got to fix
And
the
that's
child.
hard for people to understand. It's like, oh, well, it's not breathing. It's not in, the real world. And I'm like, all right, I tell you what, you kill the baby, I kill you. That's
That's
fair.
good. That's a good note to end on right there.
That'll get kicked off YouTube.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's got to be some hate speech or some kind of inciting violence or something. I'm sure it is.
No, I
All
just,
right.
it's just, it's fun conversations to be had, but they're
Well,
also
well,
serious, and they should be
very challenging.
considered.
It's
And
very challenging because we're talking about some really serious
yeah,
shit here. I mean, we're talking about lives here, but whereas half the audience doesn't even think we're talking about lives, which is it's
no,
a tough conversation to have for sure.
it,
Anyway,
it
in
is.
short, in short, I am glad. if it does get kicked back to the States, I'm glad it's heading that direction. It's a move in the right direction, in my opinion. I can't wait to see how everything plays out, because I feel like it's going to be chaos, and I feel like we'll be there to cover it as it happens. So, stay tuned for that, of course. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
No, other than the fact that you better enjoy this time that I've got working on days. I go back to nights, my schedule's gonna be shit. So
Yes.
no, I got nothing else to say, man.
Sounds
Go
like
enjoy your family. I'm gonna go enjoy mine. So.
I
life.
I suppose we'll see you next time, and we'll try to keep bringing these live streams to you as we see fit. I'm kind of enjoying this kind of throw it out there whenever we feel like it kind of mode we've been doing. Hopefully we got some additional content, or we do have some additional content coming for you in the future. So stay tuned for that. Please tell your friends, subscribe to the Unframe of Mind show, and hey, come join us over in the Discord community. We like to hang out in there. I'd like to build it back up and start some lively conversations and take this conversation elsewhere. So there's
if you don't agree with us, or especially with me, I still love you.
Do you?
Yeah. Not you, them.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Next time you come here, I got a gift for you.
It better be like, I don't know, like a bathrobe or something.
If it is, it's a tiny one.
Covers up just the junk.
Just the important parts. All right.
That's right.
Y'all been watching the Unframe of Mind show, where we have uncomfortable conversations without a condom, and today has been no difference. Yeah. I'm glad you all tagged along, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.